Okay, so picture this. It's, I don't know, a Tuesday morning. You are the perfect digital citizen.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard all the warnings 1,000 times. And, unlike most people, you actually listen to them.
You're the gold standard of cybersecurity hygiene.
Exactly. You inspect the URL. You never, ever click on a link in an email from someone you don't know. No sketchy attachments. You're doing everything right.
Right.
You're sitting at your desk, sipping coffee. Maybe you're not even at your computer. Maybe you're asleep.
Sounds like a pretty peaceful, secure existence.
It does. But here's the terrifying premise we have to start with today. While you are doing absolutely nothing wrong, your computer is being compromised,
Uh-huh.
it's being infected, your files are being locked, or someone's installing spyware. And here's the real kicker. You didn't click a single thing.
That right there, that is the stuff of nightmares for most people. We're trained, conditioned really, to think that if we get hacked, it's because we messed up.
Yes, we slipped up.
What?
We were the weakest link.
It was our fault.
Exactly, we blame the user.
Yeah.
But today, we're kind of ripping up that rule book. We are diving into a type of threat that literally does not care how careful you are. We're talking about the worm.
It's a fascinating, a bit of a terrifying subject. And to help us navigate it, we're doing a deep dive into this really comprehensive breakdown from WeCyberYou.
Right.
They've put together a report simply titled Worm Attack, and it's basically our survival guide for this conversation.
And that credibility is so key because you hear so much jargon thrown around. People use virus and worm and Trojan.
Interchangeably, yeah.
Yeah, like they all just mean bad computer thing. But WeCyberYou makes it very clear that no, they are distinct, and the worm is in a league of its own.
Precisely. And so the mission for this deep dive is really specific. We're not just trying to scare you, although, fair warning,
You might be a little scared.
a little. We want you to understand exactly how a worm differs from other malware and really unpack the mechanics of how something can travel without any human help.
That's the part that gets me. Without human help. It sounds like science fiction.
It does, but it's very real.
Yeah.
And it shifts the conversation from what we usually blame user error to system vulnerability. This is about how machines talk to each other when we're not looking.
So let's unpack this then. Let's start with the definition. We're looking at the one from WeCyberYou. They define a worm as a type of malware that spreads automatically across computers and networks without user interaction.
And that last part is the absolute kicker, without user interaction.
Right. They even have this section in simple terms, which I appreciate. They say, a worm can copy itself and move from one device to another without you clicking a link or opening a file.
Let's just pause on that for a second because it's such a fundamental shift. Think about a normal computer virus or a Trojan. They usually need a vehicle.
Right.
They need you to download a sketchy game or open an invoice that isn't really an invoice. They need an invitation, essentially. You have to open the door.
Like a vampire. They can't come in unless you invite them.
That's a great analogy. Most malware is like a vampire. It relies on tricking you. But a worm is like a battering ram. It just needs a crack in the foundation.
That is viscerally disturbing. So it completely contradicts the standard advice of don't click suspicious links. I mean, obviously, you should still follow that advice.
Please, yes. Still don't click those links.
But what WeCyberYou is saying here is that with a worm, your behavior is almost irrelevant to that initial infection.
Correct. The threat model changes completely. You can't just rely on being smart or having common sense. You can be the most skeptical internet user alive. But if your computer has a vulnerability, the worm can find you.
So let's talk about the characteristics WeCyberYou highlights. The first one is self-replicating.
Right. And this is biological terminology applied to code. It just means it makes copies of itself. Its primary directive is to multiply.
So it lands on my computer, makes a copy, and then tries to send that copy to, what? Every device on my network.
Every device it can find. It's not just trying to damage your computer. It's using your computer as a launch pad. It wants to colonize.
And the second characteristic, which we've touched on, is no user action required. But help me with the technical side. If I'm not clicking anything, how does the file get onto my hard drive?
That is the curse of the network.
Yeah.
WeCyberYou lists the third characteristic as network-based. Worms live in the wires, in the Wi-Fi signals.
Yeah.
They hunt.
Okay, but how?
Imagine your computer has thousands of little invisible doors called ports. It uses them to talk to the internet, one for web browsing, one for email.
Okay.
Usually they're guarded, but sometimes there's a flaw, a bug in the code, that leaves one of those doors slightly ajar.
So I have a door I don't even know about, and the lock is broken.
Exactly. And the worm is just a program that is constantly scanning the internet, knocking on millions of these doors every second. It finds that one door on your machine that's ajar, and it just slips itself through.
And just like that, it's on my machine.
Yes. And once it's there, it starts scanning for other machines to infect. It turns your computer into a zombie soldier in its army.
So it's active, it's traveling.
It's traveling. And that leads to the fourth characteristic from WeCyberYou: fast spreading.
They say it can infect thousands of devices quickly. What does quickly mean here? Hours, days.
It can mean minutes, because it doesn't wait for a human to make a mistake. The speed is exponential.
Right. A hacker trying to trick people has to send emails, hope they get through spam filters, hope someone clicks. Humans are slow.
Exactly. That's social engineering. A worm is pure automation. It's a script running at processor speed. It's a chain reaction.
An avalanche.
An avalanche is the perfect word. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4. You can go from 0 infections to global saturation in hours. We've seen worms circle the globe in less than a day.
And just to be 100% clear on this, I could be physically asleep. My computer's just on, connected to the Wi-Fi, and this happens.
Yes, that is the threat. If the flaw exists and the machine is connected, the worm can enter, copy itself, and move on to your smart fridge or your office server, all while you're dreaming.
Okay, that is sufficiently terrifying. So we know how it moves. But what does it actually do? Why should we care if this thing is copying itself?
That's the so what question. And the damage, according to WeCyberYou, ranges from just annoying to catastrophic.
The first thing they list is system degradation, slow down or crash systems.
Right. Think about all that replication. That takes computing power. The worm is using up your CPU, maxing out your RAM. Your computer feels sluggish, fans spin up.
Like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of rocks.
A great way to put it. And it can consume network bandwidth. This is where it gets really messy for businesses.
Because it's clogging the pipes, basically.
Completely. Imagine an office where every computer is frantically trying to send copies of the worm to every other computer. The network just stops. No real work can get done. Emails won't send.
It's a denial of service just by being noisy.
Exactly. But modern worms do more than that. WeCyberYou says they can install other malware. They specifically mention ransomware or spyware.
So the worm is just the delivery vehicle.
It's the transport. Its job is to break into the house. But once it's inside, it opens its backpack and lets out the really nasty stuff, like ransomware that locks all your files.
Or spyware that steals your passwords.
And another thing WeCyberYou lists is that it can create backdoors for hackers.
This sounds chilling.
It is.
Yeah.
The worm is like a scout. It breaks in not to steal anything right away, but to install a secret mechanism that lets a human hacker come back later, whenever they want.
So it's like a burglar breaking in, not to steal the TV, but to unlock a window so they come back next week with a moving truck.
Precisely. It creates persistence. Even if you delete the worm, the hacker might still have a way back in.
And that leads to the broad impact. Disrupt businesses and critical services.
When you combine all of that, crashing systems, clogged networks, ransomware, you're talking about shutting down hospitals, power grids. It stops being an IT problem and becomes a societal one.
And speaking of societal problems, WeCyberYou gives us a perfect example. The WannaCry attack. I remember the headlines. Why is that the textbook case?
WannaCry is the classic because it happened in 2017, but it's still the reference point. It perfectly illustrates this hybrid threat.
The source says it used worm-like behavior to spread rapidly across vulnerable computers worldwide.
That phrase, worm-like behavior, is key. WannaCry was ransomware. It locked files and demanded Bitcoin. But what made it a global crisis was the worm component that carried it.
It didn't need people to click a bad attachment?
No. It used a vulnerability in Windows called Eternal Blue to just jump from computer to computer all on its own.
And the source notes it spread rapidly across vulnerable computers worldwide.
Worldwide is the word. It hit the UK's National Health Service, forcing ambulances to be diverted. It hit shipping companies, car factories. It showed how a single vulnerability can cause global chaos in hours.
And it didn't require millions of people to make a mistake at the same time.
No, it just required them to have vulnerable systems. The worm did all the work. It was automated chaos.
Okay, I think everyone listening is sufficiently worried. I'm looking at my laptop with a lot of suspicion right now. So let's pivot. How do we stop this? WeCyberYou has a section on how to protect yourself.
Thankfully, the advice is very practical. And the number one most critical defense they list is Keep your operating system and software updated.
Updated. I feel like I hit remind me tomorrow on those notifications all the time. Does it really matter that much for worms?
It matters more for worms than almost anything else. We all hate the updates, they break your flow. But those updates often contain patches. They are fixing the literal holes that the worms crawl through.
So I shouldn't see it as new features available. I should see it as, we found a hole in the wall, let us brick it up.
Exactly. Remember WannaCry? It exploited a specific flaw in Windows. Microsoft had actually released a patch for that flaw before the attack took off.
Wait, really? A fix already existed?
Yes. The people who had updated their systems were largely safe. The worm knocked, found the door locked, and moved on. The people who hit remind me later, they were the victims.
Wow, okay. That puts that little pop-up in a whole new perspective.
It's not a nuisance, it's a shield. It's the most effective shield you have.
The next tip from WeCyberYou is use antivirus and firewall protection.
This is your active defense. Think of the patch as locking the door. The firewall is the bouncer standing outside watching traffic. The antivirus is your safety net inside, scanning anything that manages to land.
And they also warn, avoid using outdated systems.
This is a huge one. People love to hold on to old tech, but in cybersecurity, old means abandoned.
So this is a wake-up call for anyone still using a laptop with Windows 7.
Truly. When an OS is end of life, it means the manufacturer isn't writing those patches anymore. If a new worm comes out, they aren't fixing it. You are a sitting duck.
A house with no locks.
In a very bad neighborhood.
And the final piece of advice, secure your network and Wi-Fi.
Since worms are network-based, your network is the front line. This just means a strong password, WPA3 encryption. Don't make it easy for a worm to hop from a guest's phone onto your whole network.
So it's all about digital hygiene.
Exactly. Updates, firewalls, retiring old tech, and locking down the network. It's not magic, but it works.
Okay, let's bring this all home. We started with the idea that you can be hacked without clicking a single thing, the zero-click threat.
Which fundamentally changes the rules, right?
Yeah.
It moves us away from victim blaming towards system security.
We looked at that WeCyberYou definition. A worm is a self-replicating network-based threat needing zero human interaction to spread.
And it creates chaos by crashing systems, eating bandwidth, and delivering things like ransomware.
And we learned that the best defense isn't just being careful, but actually maintaining your digital infrastructure, updating things, closing those holes.
It shifts the focus from user behavior to system maintenance.
WeCyberYou has a short version for this, which I think is perfect. They say, a worm is malware that spreads by itself across devices and networks, no clicking required.
Short, sweet, and terrifyingly accurate.
So this is where it gets really interesting for me. We spent years telling people, you are the weakest link. But the worm challenges that.
It really does. It suggests that the system itself is the battlefield.
And that leaves me with a final thought for you listening. If the most dangerous malware no longer needs us to make a mistake, does that mean the responsibility for safety has shifted? Are we moving into an era where we need to demand digital structural integrity from the people who build our software?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. When the threat is automated, the defense has to be systemic. You can't put it all on the user anymore. We need better code, not just smarter users.
Something to think about the next time your computer asks you to restart for an update. Maybe don't hit remind me tomorrow.
Definitely don't. Hit restart now.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay safe, stay updated, and we'll see you next time.